Hi, everyone. It is October 13, 2019. California. California. You guys out there, man, you are dealing with an awful lot. We're all dealing with a lot, but some are ahead of the game dealing with an awful lot. And Californians, you seem to be ahead of the game. So, before I start, I just want to say the emails and comments, emails that I'm getting from an awful lot of you who are really hurting due to the lack of support that you have in real life. I wish I could address every email. I want to be posting videos talking about that issue and how we could possibly be more supportive to one another, because things are really getting hard. You know, when you know a whole lot of what is going on, well, that knowledge can be a real weight that just, sits on you, and you have to bear, an awful lot of destruction and suffering and watching, the light go out. And it is very hard. It would be so much easier if we all had support in real life. So I know what it's like doing this alone without the support that I need. I know what it feels like. I just wanted to say that because in reading the emails and the comments, I wish, that I had, some miracle to offer, but I don't. All I have is myself and what I say, and because we're not in real life, it's, the support is limited, and that then is, at least we have this support in the cyber world. Can you imagine what it would be like to not have the internet right now? To know everything that you know, and you can't go anywhere to at least read or hear, someone else who is going through a similar experience that you can relate to, and read or hear those who are like-minded. Well, I can't imagine. But unfortunately, we are losing this forum. So, yeah, we really, wow, man, we're headed towards something that's not going to be very nice. And we need to be as supportive as we possibly can right now, so we don't lose, strength. We have to somehow have a reserve for that time when this is no longer. Hard to imagine, isn't it? But we're getting there. So California fires. Okay, here's an update.
On California's destructive wildfires as smoke blankets parts of Los Angeles this morning. The fires forced thousands from their homes. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez joins us from LA. Good morning, Marcy.
Eva, good morning. Firefighters are still out here keeping a close eye on these destroyed homes. You can see the walls of this one are barely standing, yet incredibly, the vehicle in the driveway is still intact. We're told these flames moved in so quickly, the couple next door says they had just minutes to grab their 2 kids and a few belongings and get out.
Newly released video shows the ferocity of one of the fires that ravaged Southern California.
California. In Los Angeles County, nearly 8,000 acres burned this morning. Firefighters still putting out hot spots, trying to avoid a flare-up and the kind of nightmare Monica and Drew Silver walked out of their house to find Thursday night. Wind whipping burning embers, flames closing in on them from 3 sides.
We looked at each other and we just knew we weren't going to come home to the house. All the embers were flying horizontally across the walkway and the driveway. And the kids went, oh, well, we're not going out there. I said, well, if we don't, we die.
They returned this weekend with an insurance adjuster confirming their fears.
It was hard, to hear somebody saying it's a total loss, like no question about it.
Theirs is one of dozens of homes destroyed this week as several fires burned out of control. In Riverside County, police confirming a second person was killed in this mobile home community that was quickly overcome by flames. And this morning in Los Angeles County, mandatory evacuation orders are lifted. Residents now returning home.
We're very lucky. We're very, very fortunate.
While the Silvers assess their losses. Their wedding rings gone, everything from their photography business destroyed.
Lost our home and our work.
And yet they say they're grateful.
But things don't matter. It's being together and being here and living through it. And we have our lives, we have our health, and that's all that matters.
Okay, so it's not a fortunate for the people who have lost their homes, but fortunately, it wasn't a paradise. It wasn't a campfire. It wasn't a Santa Rosa fire. Thousands of homes destroyed. It is interesting how the flames seem to sweep in and get homes, but not the trees or the cars that are parked right next to the home. Okay. Well, those embers just flying all around. Now, I have on my Never Lose Truth channel a weather modification playlist, and videos on that playlist explain how they can make wind, destructive wind, with frequencies. Everything is frequency. Now, I don't understand why it's so hard for people to get. That they too, their brains, their body, everything operates on frequencies. And Earth, everything is the frequency energy. So, when man can tap into these artificial frequencies that they can emit from Gwen towers, from cell towers, from radar, Doppler radar, the power of the frequencies that they can emit, the pulsating frequencies, they can outdo Mother Nature on the power. So yes, they can create a tremendous amount of wind and yes, bring it to areas almost immediately. So these fires that we are seeing in California, just like the flooding that we saw Houston over and over, Louisiana over and over, Baton Rouge over and over, so many different areas, so don't get upset if I didn't mention your area. The flooding that was taking place over every day. Massive, historic flooding. All right. That people are not questioning what is happening. That is what upsets a lot of us. Because we know that if they don't question, and if they don't do the research to find out what really is behind all of this destruction, then it will just continue. Many in California, in these areas, and up north, are feeling the anxiety. When is it going to happen to me? The flooding? When is it going to happen to me? See, that's the hard part about knowledge. But it wouldn't be hard if we didn't have so many ignorant people choosing to be ignorant. They will not, step out of, their manufactured reality to step into real reality. See, if we had that, we'd have so much more support. We'd have support in our real life. And guess what? From there, well, you can organize. Instead, what we have, and I'm going to do a video on protests around the world. There are so many protests around the world going on. But the people in the country are united against their governments. Americans, we fight one another. So we get nowhere. Nowhere.
Cooler weather is helping firefighters battle the Saddle Ridge and Sandalwood fires. In Riverside County, the Sandalwood fire killed at least 2 people. The body of a second victim was found yesterday. 76 homes in this mobile home park were destroyed. Another 16 were damaged. The fire is now 68% contained after scorching more than 1,000 acres. Now here are the latest numbers on the deadly Saddle Ridge fire. It's now burned almost 8,000 acres, destroyed 21 homes and buildings, damaged another 11 structures. The fire is 33% contained. All evacuation orders have been lifted. Now, KCAL 9's Joy Benedict is live in the Newhall Pass, where the fire is still burning. Joy, how is it looking out there? I know it's still pretty dark, but are you seeing any smoke at all or any flames?
All right, I'll tell you that things are getting better. Winds have died down. PG&E, restoring power. Interesting, isn't it? So, the shutoff of power beginning up north in California, and then it's not Con Ed, it's Con Ed in New York. Is it Southern Edison in LA area, then San Diego? All of these shut-offs from northern to southern, right on down to San Diego of power. Then you have the fires that erupt out of nowhere, and whoa, man, they're, well, how many fires erupted on the same day? At least 3, right? Maybe even more. Same script we hear. Then it goes on for a couple of days. The catastrophe brewing. And then, okay, the 100,000 who were under mandatory evacuation from Porter Ranch, the San Fernando Valley, Silmar, and Granada Hills and Porter Ranch. 100,000 mandatory evacuation. Now they're coming back home. And fortunately, most are coming back to their homes, not even touched by the fire. It's not fortunate for the 21. So many, I get the sense that they, just because it's 21 homes, it's not dramatic. It's really dramatic for the people who have lost their homes. 76 destroyed in the Sandalwood fire, 21 in the Saddle Ridge. So, just a few seconds of hearing the latest update, which came in just about an hour ago.
Yeah, Captain Eric Schott from LAFD is here with us on site here at the command post. Now, we just had the morning briefing. We know it's 41% contained. That means that 41% of this fire has a line drawn around it, so it can't go beyond that line, but you still have fire burning today.
That's correct, and so that's going to be some of the ongoing challenges. We're not out of the woods yet.
So what is the weather going to do for you today? Are you going to have less humidity or less wind today?
Well, weather plays a significant role, and our major concern has always been and continues to be the wind. When it's a topography-driven fire, meaning that the fire just naturally burns up a hill, through a canyon,
all right, it's a lot easier. The winds are still a concern, but 41% contained the Saddle Ridge fire. And, It looks, I mean, if they've lifted the mandatory evacuation, then it looks like it's at least they don't feel like other homes are going to get destroyed, but who knows? Who knows? I want you to see this. What is this?
Fort Ranch up at the Ralph.
Sorry. Fire burning.
Here. That's pretty crazy. I've never seen that before. A lot of flames coming through there. So it's underground at this moment. There's some more over here coming through another vent. That's wild.
What does that say to me? What this says to me is that they had an awful lot of very powerful frequencies being set off in the San Fernando Valley area. And yes, they can create fires underground. Think about the Gwen towers. Gwen, ground wave emergency network that was decommissioned in the 70s. So why did we erect more and more Gwen towers all over the country? They litter our interstates. And why do we have them back to back? There are areas along the interstate where you can see Gwen towers. You got 2, 3, 4 back to back areas where you will see, 22 on one side, 22 on the other side, because Gwen towers are extremely powerful, emitting extremely low frequencies. And they can emit those frequencies into the atmosphere to control weather. But ground wave, those wires that come down to the ground that I've shown numerous times before, they can emit extremely low frequencies through the ground. And yes, frequency can cause fire. Lasers can cause fire. Smart meters, pulsating frequencies, they can start fires. And it could be one of the reasons why we saw that house completely destroyed, but that, car sitting right next to the house, untouched. Smart meters, perhaps used again. When you are emitting all of these frequencies to either control the weather or, hey, get those Santa Ana winds whipping really strong, the frequencies themselves, if they are hitting smart meters, could start fires. So yeah, fire coming out of these manholes and these drains. All right. So numerous Riverside County homes destroyed by fire. SoCal Edison cuts power to thousands. Is it just too scary for people to realize that what they're seeing is not a natural event? Are they just so scared that they can't even go near it? Well, I'm sorry, that means they're children. Because adults really do deal with the serious, scary stuff. 74 homes and buildings destroyed, 16 others damaged. So I want to read some of what people were going through. It's easy to just watch the news about the fires and hear what the news people always put those, in front of the camera that are not really devastated. You don't see the real devastation that they might be feeling But I don't even want to make a presumption, because the shock, of losing your home, it being totally destroyed, many people have different reactions to it, and the feeling part may come, days later. But what do you always hear? They're grateful that nobody was hurt. Well, okay, but an awful lot of people can't recover from these events. And I suppose when you hear, yes, you're looking at a woman who's talking about the total devastation of her home, losing everything, and even their work, because apparently they worked at home. But you're also hearing people say how grateful they are that nobody was hurt. Of course they would be, right? I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is what we get on the news is not the real devastation that people go through, that would maybe evoke more feeling about what is taking place. Maybe even evoke a feeling of such compassion that that person might be moved to help those who are suffering. I don't know. Yeah, I hope you understand what I'm saying. But Don and Kimberly Turner spent Thursday night at an evacuation center, desperate to hear news of Don's mother, 89-year-old Lois Arvikson. She lived alone at the mobile home park and was on the phone with her son as the fire arrived. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being that son or being a daughter? Your mother's 89 years old and the fire arrives. She just knew the fire was close by. She didn't know how close. I talked to her, but she was already fairly upset by then because of the smoke. She said she was going to get her purse and get out. I told her to use her medic alert, and then we got disconnected. Neighbors reported seeing her get into her car to leave, but they don't know what happened next. The Turners saw Arvikson's home destroyed by the fire on TV news coverage, and the car still in the driveway. We don't know if she actually went back in there, but we can't find her. We called all the hospitals. We're just in limbo right now, and that's the hardest part, not knowing. Well, this reminds me of last year when all of those people were looking for family members in the campfire. The devastation, that takes place is just so intense. And if you've never experienced anything like this, you really don't know what people go through. Southern California Edison said power could ultimately be cut off to more than 173,000 customers in 9 counties. I guess that's not going to be happening. This article is now 2 days old. Bear Valley Electric Service, which serves Big Bear Valley, announced that it may also cut power to customers because of extreme fire conditions. So the reason why I highlighted this is there are alternatives, even perhaps to PG&E, but the smaller companies are actually the children of the big daddy companies, PG&E. So what does Bear Valley Electric Service do? It does what Southern California Edison does. So, This is hard. Yeah, and it's very important to see. Yeah, and get a real good feel for the devastation. Especially when you know that this is deliberate and what the two-legged and four-legged go through. 40 horses, spooked, panicked, and this is quite the video right here.
¡Salte! Dios mío, mi cuadra. ¡Abríamos! ¡Ábrele! ¡Hay que soltar los caballos, ¿ah? ¡A todos, cabrón! ¡Que les abríamos! ¡Ábrele! ¡Que les abras! ¡Salte! ¡Sálganse! Vete, güey. Ya me voy, güey. ¿Estás bien? Come on. Come on.
So, I was wondering, and I bet some of you did too, how is it that it was filmed, that guy had a camera? I don't know. I don't know. But, horses are truly one of the most peaceful animals. We could learn so much from animals if we paid attention. But when I see them spooked, I get really upset. Especially when I know that this is deliberate, okay? I don't like it. It upsets me greatly, and you don't want to ever see this again. So if we all could unite and understand what's happening, the possibility does exist that we could get this stopped. It exists. But we can't unite because trust has been so thoroughly broken. And we can't organize. And that's what really frustrates me, because I know that more and more animals are going to suffer very painful deaths, and more humans will. More will lose everything. So, here. Power returns, the haves and have-nots of electrical power in California. You shut off the power, it's a big deal for an awful lot of people. A lot, in reading comments, not under my videos, but under, these, there was an article about a man who died 12 minutes after the shutoff because he relied on electricity to live, to breathe, oxygen. And then when you're reading the comments, it's so, well, Look, there's an awful lot going on that everybody should be outraged about. And I do wonder, if some articles are just made up to get that outrage because they do want to spark, the pitchfork riot. But an awful lot of Americans are just kind of heartless and cruel. So the comments that I was reading underneath that article were all about, well, it's not PG&E's fault. Everybody should be prepared. And everybody had warning. No, that is not true. An awful lot of people did not have any idea that this was coming. Some people had 1 hour to prepare. So, again, knowledge is really important. So when, one person gets notified, let's say a day in advance, and then others get an hour, and some get none, the ones that had the 24-hour advance notice begin to judge those who didn't get the notice. When we're all on different pages, that's the seed that suddenly judgment comes. Well, we have to take a step back and think, okay, that man may not have had any notice at all. The power outages hurting businesses, hurting the elderly, hurting the disabled. Intentional blackout by California's largest utility this week put Forrest Jones out of work and his son out of school. Handyman, single father, sat in his apartment above a tattoo parlor waiting for power to come back on, for the school to reopen. Even schools being closed, that creates an awful lot of problems for people who work. But I'll probably lose $400, $500 because of this. He lives in the town of Paradise. Things have been really tough up here. So Paradise. Talk about reactivating trauma in people. So now they're putting power out to prevent wildfires. And you had an entire town taken out in 24 hours just last year. There's an awful lot of people who are still traumatized. Well, guess what? Suddenly, now they're sitting in the dark, in Paradise. Yeah, that's going to inflame the trauma that they have already had. The outage, which the power company said was necessary to prevent wildfires, also drew a line between those who were merely inconvenienced and those who faced a major financial hardship. To have the lights on, the television running, kitchen appliances humming, taken for granted in America. Yeah. But guess what? If you haven't had this happen, start imagining it. How about turning off all of your electricity for a couple of days and see what it is that you need when that electricity is off, so that when it actually does get intentionally turned off by someone else, you'll have what you need. Prepare for it, because it's not just happening in California. We are being brought down to third world status. So when we hear about, those countries that have rolling blackouts, they have no electricity for a few days, or they have some electricity a few hours a day and then it's cut off again. That's what's coming here. You wish people could see. And see what's happening. The economic impacts of the shutoff were especially acute in rural, northern towns like Paradise, where incomes are a fraction of those in San Francisco Bay Area. Being forced off the grid disproportionately hurts the less affluent, of course. One family spent $150 on batteries and water alone during the shutoff. To be prepared costs money. So this family went out and bought a generator to keep their refrigerator running, to provide some light. They cooked in their family's Volkswagen camper van. It was an inconvenience to them, but there's an awful lot of Americans who cannot afford a generator, you know. And then you think about all of the elderly who are alone. You know, one elderly woman fortunately had 24-hour assistance or full-time assistance. You know. Oh, and then of course, $4 per gallon, over $4 a gallon. And you need that, you know, gas to run the generator. Everything becomes very expensive. But with everything that has become so expensive, there's not a lot of people who can do this. Dennis and Viola Timmer drove up the hill to their home in Magalia. This is a retired couple. And that's right next door to Paradise. Loaded $102 of gasoline for their generators. It was their second run since the power was turned off. Retired on a fixed income. So you have just one event, power turned off for a couple of days. Boom, you've got an awful lot of people now who are really hurting. They need that income that they could have gotten if the power was still on. The ripple effects of all of these events are tremendous. Tremendous. You know, generators, not enough power to heat or to cool off homes. It's really difficult because you don't have a normal life. You're trying to survive. So Marjorie Kahn, who turns 100 in December, had the advantage of a full-time assistant. She was pretty uncomfortable. Cell phone ran out of power. They tried to get power from, you know, their car, but cell phone service was spotty. Why? Because it wasn't just the electricity, but Verizon and I guess AT&T had an awful lot of problems with that power shutoff. Okay, so now normal, quote-unquote normal, life is coming back to Californians. When's the next time? This is going to happen again and again and again. Yeah. People who are on food stamps lost a tremendous amount of food from that power shutoff, and they don't get food stamps again. You know, they're not, because the power was shut off, they will not be getting food stamps again. So, you know, it's no small thing. Everything that took place in California with the power shutoffs and the fires, tremendous chaos. Think about all of the, you know, highways and interstates that were closed. San Fernando Valley, you want to talk major inconvenience for all of those people who had to get to work. When you have those kinds of closures, you know, because, well, there's an awful lot that rely on those highways and interstates to get to work. But what else was behind this? A psyop? the collection of data, perhaps just to see how Californians react to this chaos, and that'll be my next video.